Deborah and Charles were the epitome of love, their bond was unbreakable, and their hearts beat as one. They were each other's rock, supporting and loving each other beyond measures. Charles worked in a bank, and Deborah was a nurse. Their schedules were hectic, but they always made time for each other. One fateful day, Charles had a promotional exam at 8 a.m. He overslept and ran late, forgetting his login status in the process. Deborah, being the loving wife she was, rushed to give him the items he forgot. She sped to the exam center, her heart racing with anxiety. On her way back home, tragedy struck. Deborah was involved in a terrible accident and was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis was devastating. Deborah was paralyzed from the waist down. Charles's world came crashing down. Despite the challenges, Charles was determined to show Deborah optimal love. He cared for her, bathed her, and fed her, never complaining once. His friends warned him about the toll it was taking on his mental health. "Charles, you're sacrificing too much," they said. "You need to take care of yourself too." Charles battled with his office work, caregiving responsibilities, and children's upkeep. It was hectic, but he refused to give up. Purity, Deborah's caregiver, was a godsend. She helped Charles with Deborah's care, and her assistance was enormous. Charles was grateful for Purity's help. He decided to show his appreciation by giving her a gift. As time passed, Charles's love for Deborah started to dwindle. He found himself drawn to Purity's kindness and beauty. Deborah noticed the change in Charles's behavior. She was frustrated and depressed, feeling like she was losing her husband. Charles informed Deborah of his intentions to appreciate Purity. Deborah was skeptical, sensing something was amiss. Charles bought a golden ring for Purity, knowing she loved assorted rings. Little did Deborah know Charles's intentions. The light of love between Charles and Deborah dwindled more. Deborah felt like she was losing her husband to someone else. Charles asked Deborah to invite Purity over. Deborah hesitated, feeling uneasy about the situation. When Purity arrived, Charles proposed to her in front of Deborah. Deborah slumped and was rushed to the hospital. "How could you, Charles?" Deborah cried. "I thought you loved me." Charles's friends had warned him, "Love is blind, but it shouldn't be foolish." As Deborah lay in the hospital, she wondered, had Charles's love for her truly died? Purity's presence in their lives had changed everything. Deborah felt like she was losing her husband to someone who was supposed to be her caregiver. Charles's decision to propose to Purity had left Deborah shattered. She felt like she was living in a nightmare. "Love is a choice," Deborah remembered her mother saying. But is it still a choice when circumstances change? Deborah's accident had changed everything. Charles's love and devotion had started to wane. Purity's kindness and beauty had captured Charles's heart. Deborah felt like she was competing with someone else. "You can't pour from an empty cup," Charles's friends had told him. "Take care of yourself, Charles." But Charles had refused to listen. He was determined to keep his marriage vows. Now, it seemed like his determination had been in vain. Deborah felt like she was losing her husband. What's a man to do when his wife becomes a burden? Charles's friends asked. Deborah wondered if she was indeed a burden to Charles. Had she become too much for him to handle? The accident had changed everything. Deborah's life was now confined to a wheelchair. Charles's love had been her strength. But now, she felt like she was losing that strength. Purity's presence had brought a new dynamic into their relationship. Deborah felt like she was no longer the center of Charles's universe. Love is about sacrifice, Deborah remembered. But is it still love when the sacrifice becomes too much? Charles's proposal to Purity had left Deborah speechless. She didn't know what to say or do. As she lay in the hospital, Deborah wondered if she would ever regain Charles's love. You can't force love, Charles's friends said. If it's meant to be, it will be. But Deborah wasn't sure if she believed that. She felt like she was fighting a losing battle. Purity's role in their lives had changed everything. Deborah felt like she was no longer the priority. Deborah lay in the hospital bed, her mind racing with thoughts. She couldn't help but think about the incident that had changed her life forever. What exactly was it that put me in this wheelchair? She asked herself, tears welling up in her eyes. The answer echoed in her mind: Charles's promotional exam. If only she hadn't rushed to give him his login status, she might not have been involved in that terrible accident. Deborah's eyes filled with tears as she thought about it. My genuine sacrifice has eaten me raw, she whispered to herself. Took a toll on my life negatively. She couldn't help but regret the decision to rush to the exam center. Why did I have to go? She asked herself. Why couldn't Charles have just rescheduled the exam? But deep down, Deborah knew that Charles's career was important to him. She had wanted to support him, to be there for him. Now, she lay in a hospital bed, her life forever changed. Deborah felt like she was paying the price for her sacrifice. Is this what they mean by the price of love? She wondered. Is this what it means to put someone else's needs before your own? Deborah's thoughts were consumed by regret and what-ifs. She couldn't help but think about what could have been if only things had been different. As Deborah lay in the hospital bed, she couldn't help but think about Charles's proposal to Purity. She felt a pang of sadness and betrayal. How could he do this to me? She wondered. After everything I've been through, how could he just give up on us? Deborah's mind was filled with questions, but she knew she might never get the answers she was looking for. She thought about the days when Charles would care for her, bathe her, and feed her. Those moments seemed like a distant memory now. Deborah's heart ached as she realized that Charles's love for her had dwindled. She felt like she was losing him, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. As she lay there, Deborah couldn't help but wonder what the future held for her. Would she ever walk again? Would Charles ever love her the way he used to? The uncertainty of it all was overwhelming. Deborah felt like she was losing control of her life, and she didn't know how to regain it. She closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Why did this have to happen to me? She whispered to herself. Deborah's thoughts were consumed by regret, sadness, and uncertainty. She felt like she was trapped in a nightmare, And she didn't know how to wake up. As the darkness closed in around her, Deborah couldn't help but wonder if she would ever find happiness again.